All right, guys, we're live. Oh man, I'm so excited about today's training. We have a powerful objection handling series that we are kicking off today. So it's a really cool series. It's going to be 4 parts at least. We may extend it to 6 parts. We'll kind of play it by ear and see what other objections you guys want me to do some training on. But today we're kicking it off with, here's the deal. This is really funny. So we surveyed you guys. We surveyed our list. We surveyed this group right here. And far and away, today's objection was the number one request. We call it the interest rate objection. So if you are hearing right now, oh, we're going to wait until interest rates drop, we're going to wait until interest rates come down, you are in the right spot, because we're going to show you step by step. I'm going to walk you step by step today on how to handle that objection, not leaving anything out, as completely as I can possibly handle it in about 45 minutes or so. So we're going to deep dive on this. I'm going to handle it as deeply as I can potentially handle it today without sounding like sleazy, salesy, annoying, obnoxious. Like, this is going to be a phenomenal training for you guys. So buckle up, grab something to freaking take notes with, because this is going to be awesome. Now, for those that might be new to the Facebook group, because we are adding people every single day to this group. If you're new to the Facebook group, you're new to me, by the way. My name is Coach Travis Robertson, and I am the CEO and founder of Don't Settle Coaching. And what we do is we help thousands of agents all over the country figure out how to scale their businesses, build mid 6 to 7 figure, high income, high profit, high fun, high enjoyment level businesses. And we show them through scripts, through sales training, lead generation, conversion strategies, systems, team building, whatever it is. Our mission, my mission, is to help people just like you, agents just like you, rapidly scale your business into that mid 6 to 7 figures. And that's what we do here. That's what I do. And so these trainings that we do here once a week, it's like an appetizer, if you will. It's like the teaser. It's something we go deep. We give you lots of value, but this is just the tip of the iceberg. And so we want to help you. We want to support you. We want to encourage you. And my hope is that if you find this valuable, you'll look into one of our programs. You'll investigate what it is we do here. We have multiple programs designed to help and support you in getting to that next level in your business, in your income. So before we get into today's content, because again, we have got so much to get to, I need to make sure. I'm looking like, sorry guys, it's looking like we may be having, are we live in the group? It's kind of looking a little wonky here on my side. I just want to make sure. Are you guys, if you're seeing this okay, do me a favor, give like a thumbs up or put a yes into the comments, just so I know that this is being seen correctly. It looks like maybe there's a little bit of an issue. I just want to make sure it's just on my side and not on your side. So okay, cool. So we're good. Whew. All right. So sorry guys, I've got like multiple screens up here, trying to monitor the chat, trying to monitor everything else. And on one of them, the feed was looking really wonky. So I just wanted to make sure that we were in fact good to go. So here's the deal. If you are live, if you're watching the live stream, do me a favor, drop a hashtag live into the comments. Let me know you're watching the live. If you're watching the replay, do me a favor, just drop hashtag replay into the comments. Lets me know like who's watching live, who's watching the replay, gives me some context on how to support you guys, how to encourage you guys, how to engage with you guys as we're rolling on here. So like I said, have a really important training to share with you. This is one of those trainings that if you find this valuable, if you're digging this, if you think this can help others, do me a favor, like, comment, share, whatever you need to do, get the message out there, because you are not the only agent who might be struggling with this particular objection. So if you've got agents in your office, you've got agents on your team, if you're a broker, this is a really great training to distribute. I'm going to give you permission to kind of share it outside this group here, because this is one of those topics that I truly believe needs to be out there, because so much of the training, so much of the the scripting, if you will, on this particular topic, how to handle the interest rate objection, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. And I'm going to give you a way today to handle it that is authentic, that feels good, that doesn't feel sleazy or salesy. So do me a favor. If you would find this valuable, if you're finding this valuable, like it, share it, comment, hit the little like, the heart button, the thumbs up button, smash those buttons as the cool kids say. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe and hit the like button there, the little bell, so that you always get notified when we're live. You never miss a training, because this is the first of at least a 4-part series I'm going to be doing on objection handling. So let me ask you, how many of you right now, let's just say in the last 7 days, how many of you have heard the objection, I'm going to wait, or we're going to wait until interest rates drop? If you've heard that objection in the last 7 days, punch me into the chat. Like, just type me into the chat. Let me know. Are you hearing that in real time? Oh, you know, we're going to wait till interest rates come back down, right? There's always the exaggerator. Oh, we're going to wait till they hit 2% again. We all know that's never going to happen, but there's a lot of people who are sitting on the sidelines right now, and they're just like, oh, you know what? Oh, we want to wait until they come down, maybe at least into the 5s again, or maybe the low 6s, or whatever it is. But they're sitting there on the sidelines, delaying a decision, delaying moving forward in that home buying process, because interest rates are high right now. They're higher than they've normally been. And so today is all about walking you through exactly what to do. And it was really funny. When this one came back as the number one, I'm like, of course, this group, you guys, because you're savvy, you know what's up, you know what the challenges are, you obviously pick like the most complicated one or most advanced one to actually handle. And the reason it's advanced, and the reason I think so many people struggle with this, is it has so much that goes into it. You're dealing with emotion. You're dealing with just logistical challenges like affordability. You're dealing with, fear. You're dealing with technical components of it, because it's a very technical objection to handle, because it oftentimes involves math and numbers. And so how do you navigate people through just the technical aspect of this objection? We're going to cover it all today, but I was like, of course they picked like the hardest one, or the most advanced one to handle. And I almost saved it for the very last one in this series, because I know how important this one is. And I was like, oh, we can do the other ones first and then save the best for last. But I was like, no, we're going to do this one absolutely first. We're just going to take it head on, handle the most advanced one first, and then we'll handle the other ones obviously as we're rolling forward. So if you're ready, if you have something to take notes, do me a favor, type me into the chat. Let me know you're ready, or type ready into the chat. Let me know you're ready to dive in, because buckle up. We're going to move fast. And if you don't walk away with value from today, I don't know what to tell you. You're not paying attention, because this is really, really good. Step by step, guys. Step by step. So let's dive in. First and foremost, anytime we talk about objection handling, it's critical that we understand what causes an objection, what causes a particular objection. Now, again, by the way, for those that are just jumping on, I have multiple screens here to monitor what's going on. I've got the chat, got all of that stuff. And I've got notes here, because it's a very technical training. So if you see me kind of checking my screen here, it's notes, because I do not want to miss anything as we're diving through. So what is causing this objection? When it's coming up, there can be a lot. This is actually probably one of the harder ones to answer, like what specifically is causing it. Because a lot of objections, believe it or not, guys, a lot of objections are actually caused by the agent. So the agent does something or says something or triggers the objection in the person. And that can happen in this particular case. And we'll talk about how and when that happens. But this is also something that can just be triggered simply by what people are hearing out in the news, out in the world, out in the marketplace, out when they're with their friends or their family members. Everybody's like, oh, interest rates are high. Whatever it is, they can be. This is probably one that has so many causes that we can't fully isolate it. But one of the things that I do want to say is I've actually been seeing agents triggering this one without actually knowing that they're doing it. So they're saying things, they're doing things that are actually causing this objection. And so before we get into how to handle it, let's talk about how to try and prevent it in case you are unknowingly or unwittingly causing this objection to come up. Because we only want to deal with an objection if we have to, not because we actually create the environment for the objection to come up. Does that make sense, guys? So it's fine if it comes up organically and you don't do anything to trigger it, but for crying out loud, don't make your life harder by actually triggering the objection that you then have to go and do it. Because here's what happens. If the objection comes up organically, like if they bring it up, it's so much easier to deal with than if you trigger it. Because if you say something that triggers it, if you do something that triggers it, they immediately believe that you think they should wait. And now you're arguing against yourself. You're competing against yourself, and it makes the objection so much more complicated to handle. If that's making sense, do me a favor, type yes into the chat. I just want to make sure you're with me here. You're understanding what I'm trying to get at, because if you miss this point, it'll kill you. So here's how this shows up. Let me give you an example. This is one example. So a client or prospect or something you're chatting with says, oh man, how's the market going? How are things going? And I've heard agents respond with interest rate related commentary. So I want you to think about this. Have you been responding with interest rate related commentary? Here's what it might sound like. Honestly, man, interest rates have really impacted buyers. You know, a lot of people are just kind of waiting to see what's going to happen. A rate's going to come back down and all of this. And so they're trying to be helpful, but what did they just do? It's like, here's your objection on a silver platter. Now you have permission to feed it back to me because I'm going to go, well, yeah, that makes sense because everybody else is doing the same thing. So they'll say things like, well, you know, inventory, it's really kind of slowed down because a lot of people, they're just sitting on really low interest rates and they don't want to pay, you know, 7.5%, 6.5% if they sell their home. And so again, here's the interest rate related commentary. Here's your objection. I'm going to hand it to you so you can feed it back to me. So I want you to think back over the last week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, when people have been asking, how's the market? What's going on in the market? Are you offering interest rate related commentary? And be honest with yourself. I'm not going to ask you to punch it into the chat. I'm not going to ask you to out yourself and be like, yeah, that's me. Raise your hand. Like, I'm not going to ask you to do that. But I just want you to be honest with yourself. Are you using interest rate related commentary because it's easy? Because it's simple? Because you're trying to get everybody on your side or whatever it is? Or you're just like, well, everybody knows it anyway, so I may as well talk about it? Because if you are, you're literally creating objections where there may not have been an objection before. Now, it's a lot harder because now if they feed you back that objection, you're like, whoa, wait. I mean, let's talk about why it might be a good thing. And now they're like, well, wait, you just said all these people are waiting. And people don't want to go against the crowd. So everybody's waiting. So many people are waiting. A lot of people are waiting. You've told them that if you want to fit in, which is what most people want to do what everybody else is doing and sit on the sidelines and wait for interest rates to come back down. So anything you say after that, now they're just not going to trust you because over here you said this. Now you're telling me to do this instead. Like you're speaking out of both sides of your mouth, and now you sound like a sleazy, cheesy salesperson. It's a great time to buy. Oh no. Oh, you're selling. It's a great time to sell. Oh, you're selling and buying. Well, good news. It's a great time to sell and buy. It's like, it's so obvious. It's such obvious sales speak that it triggers the objections and now you're done. So you really want to watch, are you doing those things? And now I know what you mean. You may be thinking, some of you like, no, I never do that. But honestly, the other night, so this was last Friday night. I Friday nights, it's Lisa, my wife, it's our date nights. So we go out to dinner and we're waiting for a table and we go sit at the bar at this restaurant. And we're like, oh, let's go have a drink at the bar. So we're having a drink at the bar. And this is after we're like, okay, we're going to do an objection handling series. And we're just sitting at the bar and this group comes and sits next to us. And the guy sitting next to Lisa, he turns and he just strikes up a conversation. And within 2 minutes, we find out, okay, the dude's a real estate agent because he told us. And so we're just having a conversation and without even being prompted, he starts talking about the market. He's like, oh, do you guys own a home? Where do you live? What's up? Blah, blah, blah. And so we're kind of talking with him about, where we live and all of that. And he goes, man, the market, it's been crazy right now. I mean, interest rates, they're really making things all wonky and weird. And he's just like literally interest rates this, market that, challenges with this, challenges with that. And then he's like, so are you guys thinking of buying or selling? And it was the most obvious just mistake. It's just mistake after mistake after mistake. But a lot of times as salespeople, we get to talking rather than listening, and we're trying to fill the space if we're not careful, and we start filling the space with things that begin to work against us. And I promise you, if I were to ask him, what's the number one objection you're getting? Go, oh, interest rates. Everybody wants to wait till interest rates. And he would not be putting two and two together of, that's how I started off a conversation with two complete strangers who might have actually been in the market to buy or sell or do something else. But because I fed them the objection, now they're just going to feed it back, and he would not be putting two and two together. So just before you go, oh, I'm not doing that, just take an honest, hard look at yourself. So here's the thing. Assuming you're not causing it, because if you're causing it, you got a whole uphill battle, and I'm not going to get into how to handle it if you do that. So don't cause it. And then what happens if it comes up organically? Let's talk about how to handle this objection. Okay. So they come to you, you're in a conversation, and they go, you know what? We've decided we're going to wait until interest rates come back down. So when that comes up, the absolute worst thing you can do, and this is what a lot of salespeople do, is they hear an objection and they immediately want to talk. They immediately want to talk. And they're like, okay, what's my prepared objection handler? And like, well, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. And then they just spin off into this cheesy, prepared, like templated response. And in that moment, the person doesn't feel heard. They don't feel understood. And they go, well, of course you're going to tell me that I should move forward because it's in your best interest. You're a real estate agent. Why wouldn't you tell me that I should be moving forward? Because you make commission if I move forward, even if it's not in my best interest. So when we're dealing with objections, the first thing you need to do is shut up. Just shut up. For just a second, bite your tongue. And instead, I want you to think, is this a logistical objection or a fear-based objection? Because objections tend to come down, they fall into one of two categories, logistical or fear-based. Now, logistical means that it's truly something that can't really be overcome for the most part. So let me give you an example, is they can't qualify for their desired home because they've been priced out of what they want or need. So maybe it's a growing family and they've really determined that they need 4 bedrooms based on the lifestyle, home office, all the things they've determined we can do it in a 4-bedroom, but we can't do it in a 3-bedroom. And we need to be in this part of town for XYZ reasons. And we don't want to fix her up or like based on what they've determined are their needs with interest rates where they are and prices where they are logistically priced out of that situation, out of that. And they're like, we're in a situation where we can't qualify because of rates, because of credit issues or whatever it is, our credit score is not, it's fine. We can qualify, but at the rate we can qualify, at the price we need, we are logistically priced out. That is a logistical objection. Does that make sense, guys? If that makes sense, type logistical into the comments so I know you're tracking. Now, what about a fear-based objection? What's a fear-based objection? It's very simple. Anything that isn't logistical. So if you have a logistical issue, it's like, okay, well, cool. We can't really change the situation. Either we got to get your credit score up, you got to make more money, or we got to wait till prices come down or interest rates come down or both or what, or we have to move you to another part of town into a different logical, logistical situation. And if you're not willing to do that, then there's not a lot we can do. People, if you're trying to handle logistical objections as if they're emotional, fear-based objections, you're going to have a problem. But if you determine, and this is what you got to do, you got to figure out, is it logistical or is it fear-based? I'm going to show you how to kind of figure that out here as we move forward. But if it's fear-based, then it's something we can start to go, okay, wait a minute, this isn't making any logical sense. If what they're saying, you're like, logically, you're listening to it and you're like, this doesn't make sense. Then what you're more likely dealing with is a fear-based objection, a real objection, not a logistical problem. Now I can go through the process of trying to move them beyond their fear into whatever the best path for them is, not for you, but for them. What is the best path forward for them? But now I understand that this is fear-driven, and now I can move this forward in a way that serves them and possibly serves me in this process, whether today or 6 months, whatever their time frame ends up becoming. So that's what you got to do. So here's how this works. There are 6 steps that I'm going to walk you through today. When you get the objection, I'm going to show you how to move through these 6 steps, and I'm going to explain what is each step. I'm going to give you examples of what it can sound like so that you know that, okay, I got it. Like, here it is. Let me figure out, is it fear-based or logical or logistical? And then based on what it is, I can handle it accordingly. Okay, so step 1. Step 1 is you must acknowledge and defuse the objection. Acknowledge and defuse the objection. Too many agents, like I said before, they rush into the objection handling. So it's like, oh, objection, here's the prepared script. I downloaded this from the internet, and the internet told me that when they say this, I say this. And all of a sudden, everybody goes, oh, well, of course, let's move forward. It doesn't work that way. You have to acknowledge and then defuse, not diffuse, defuse, like you're pulling the fuse out of a bomb. So the objections, they're loaded. There's energy, there's pressure, there's tension, there's anxiety, there's emotion, there's frustration, whatever it is. It's like a bomb waiting to just blow up the deal. So what you got to do is you just got to acknowledge and pull the fuse out of the bomb for a second and just kind of pull the emotional energy and just get it down. Get it down. Get people out of that emotional space. And so when you do that, if you don't do that, your objection handling is just going to come off as like pushy and salesy. And so when people are like, wow, I feel like you're really pushy, it's because you haven't diffused the objection and you haven't diffused the emotion and the energy and the tension around what they just said. So what might this sound like? So possible acknowledge and diffuse statements might be, oh, okay, well, that's not a problem. Because what are they expecting me to say? Well, why would you want to do that? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Can I give you a different perspective here? I mean, I think you're making a bad decision here, or whatever it is. Like they expect, but if you just go, oh, okay, well, that's not a problem. Or, well, that actually could make sense. What I'm doing is I'm saying, yeah, that actually could make sense. Now, I'm not going to leave it there and just be like, so bye, call me when you're ready. But I could go, well, okay, well, that actually might make sense. And immediately they're going to go, Really? Because they're just not expecting that. They're just not expecting that. They're expecting a handler. They're expecting you to fight with them on it, battle them on it. But if you just go, yeah, that's not a problem. I mean, that actually might make sense. You're putting yourself, because here's how most people, I want you to think about objections, is when an objection gets put into the environment, what ends up happening is salespeople tend to view themselves on one side of the table and the client on the other side of the table. And now we're fighting over this thing. It's like we're playing tug of war with your decision. You're on one side, I'm on the other side. You just lobbed an objection and now I got to get you to my side. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. What if we're on the same side of the table? You're here, I'm here, and we're looking at this thing together. And you know what? You may be right. That may actually make sense. What you've done is you've moved yourself next to them. You've not positioned yourself opposite of them. And what is that going to cause them to do? It's going to cause them to just take a breath, lower their guard, relax into the conversation, because you're like, oh, you know what? That actually, it might make sense. Do you think they're going to now be more or less likely to listen to whatever you have to say next? Type it in the chat. What do you think? More likely or less likely? Right? More likely. Because now they're not viewing you as combative. They're viewing you as an advocate, not an adversary, but an advocate. Okay? So once you've done that, once you've dropped their guard, the second step in this. So first step, you acknowledge and diffuse. So you don't want to just be like, I hear what you're saying, and then just like jump in. It's like, yeah, you know what? That when you say that actually, that actually might make sense. You're acknowledging it. You're saying, I'm hearing you, and you're validating it that it could actually be the right decision. You're not making them wrong. So you're diffusing it. You're dropping the guard. Then the second step is you seek clarity. You seek clarity. So at this point, do we know if it's logical or logistical, or if it's fear-based or emotion-driven? We have no idea yet. Now we need to start to determine, which camp is this? Logistical or fear? Logistical fear? I don't know. But depending on what it is, it's going to determine how you're going to handle it. So the next step, you got to get clarity, because if it is the right thing for them to do, you do not want to be on the other side of that, telling them to do something that's not in their best interest. Because you will break trust, you'll break rapport, you'll damage the relationship, and you'll lose any potential referrals. Because even if it's not the right time for them, if you treat them well, they go, gosh, you know what? My sister, though, she's ready. Can I introduce you guys? Yeah, please, introduce us all day long. Because they know that you're going to be a trusted advisor for their family, their loved ones, their friends, the people they care about. So here's the deal. Once you're doing this, the only way to seek clarity in step 2 is you have to ask questions. That's it. You have to ask questions. So you've diffused the situation. That may actually be might actually make sense. So now what you're going to do is ask a question. I should probably ask, though, I guess, what's got you possibly thinking in that direction? What's got you possibly thinking in that direction? And then just shut up. Shut up. Just let them answer the question. Now they might tell you, well, we talked with our lender and here's what she's saying. And well, my dad, he's really into real estate and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you're just trying to figure out what's behind the objection. Hey, I should probably ask, I guess, why might you be thinking in that direction? Just so I'm aware, I don't know, just to see if I could potentially help and maybe offer a perspective on this, because you may be right. So it might help me to understand what's got you possibly moving in that direction versus maybe where you guys were thinking before. Again, depending on where you're at in that relationship. And the truth is, you may need to ask like multiple questions. You may need to seek additional clarity, but you do not move forward until you have real clarity. Real clarity. Because if you don't have real clarity, you need to hit pause, you need to hit timeout, and you just need to camp until you really truly understand what's going on in their world, in their business that's created this. Now, if what they're saying actually makes sense, if what you're hearing is like, well, with my husband getting transferred, we really do need to be closer to his job. And we need XYZ space. And because of the kids' school, we still need to be in this school district. And right now, what we're seeing is for what we need in this area, in this school district, with this many criteria that we need for where we're at, with what our lender's telling us. And if it all you just listen to it all and you're like, that makes sense. That makes sense. Doesn't mean I can't, probe a little bit around that and go, okay, well, just, do you mind if I play devil's advocate for just a second? Just to, again, if it's right for you, it's right for you. I'm okay either way. But I just want to know, is there a reason you wouldn't consider XYZ area or XYZ area? Just so I know, just so I can make sure I'm helping you the best way possible. And then whatever they tell you, go, that makes sense. If when it's all said and done, it genuinely makes sense, then it's a logistical problem. And it's not yours to try and push them forward. But if you're listening and you're like, this doesn't make sense, like something, and no matter your attempts to clarify, no matter your attempts to kind of figure out what's up, you're just like, this is just illogical. It doesn't actually make sense. Then it's typically a fear-based objection. And now you can move on to the next phrase or the next phase. So step 3, you've gotten real clarity. Step number 3 is you ask permission to reframe. Now, you don't say it that way. Can I have your permission to reframe this? You don't ask it that way. But you're asking permission to provide them a reframing of how they're thinking about their particular situation. Now, honestly, guys, the first thing I need to tell you here before, well, actually, we'll get to it in the reframe section. So first, let's talk about asking permission to reframe. So one of the most powerful tools that agents and truthfully all salespeople ignore, like they fail to leverage, is permission. Permission. It's amazing. Like if you get somebody's permission, then you have permission to speak freely. But if you forget to ask for permission, now you're kind of like barging your way into their world versus them going, please tell me, like, please, help me. So it's like, hey, let me give you an example. Like, hey, can I be honest? Now, don't use this one, by the way. I'm just giving you an example. This is not, I'll give you the ones you want to use here. Don't be like, can I be honest? You're an idiot. Like, don't do that. But it's like, if you ask somebody and you're like, hey, can I be honest? And they're like, yeah, please. You literally have permission to do what? Like smack him in the face with a 2x4 and be like, here's the truth. You're a moron. Like, but we don't want to do that. So the idea is that you're asking for permission. So when you ask for permission, you're not just going for the close. And what happens is when so many agents, when they just go for the close, even if they get clarity, they forget to ask permission. They just, okay, cool. I got clarity. Now I'm going for the close. And the problem is it can happen and it can work sometimes. And so they think that's the right way to do it. But the truth is, it's like the old saying, even a broken clock is right twice a day. So just because it works doesn't mean it's the right way to do it. So in this case, you just slow down and go, you know what? Do you mind if I offer, I guess, another perspective here? Not a different perspective. Never say, can I offer a different perspective? Because what that does is that tells them that theirs might be wrong. And so yours is different versus, could I offer, I guess, another perspective on this? Or would you be opposed to me offering another perspective? And so usually like, no, please. Or yeah, of course. Like, yeah, absolutely. Now, if they say, no, we really don't want another perspective, Okay. Do you mind if I ask why? Now, nobody's really going to say that because we're humans and we're relational people, and they're going to go, yeah, please. Especially if you're cool about it. You're not rushing the conversation. You're not like got to force you into a closing situation. No, it's just like, hey, would you be opposed to me offering, I guess, a different perspective on this? Or excuse me, another, not a different. Would you be opposed to me offering you, I guess, another perspective on this? So another just means like, hey, it's one. It's just it's another one. You know, there's lots of them. Would you like another one? You know, please, sir, may I have another? So when they say yes, though, now you have permission to reframe. And now you move into step 4, which is you reframe their perspective. Now, we're going to spend a bit of time on this one. And this is where, when I said it gets technical on this objection, buckle up. This is where it gets technical. So if at any point in time you start to get confused, do me a favor, drop into the chat and go, like a question or whatever, like make sure that you are clear on this as we're moving forward. Now, because this is technical, this particular reframe has to be driven. All reframes have to be driven by their specific concerns. But in this particular case, this particular reframe with the interest rate objection, you've got to listen real clearly to what they're saying, because they're going to talk about things like their payment, their mortgage, the loan amount. They're going to come with a lot of numbers driven, technical driven, or prognostications about where the market's going, what the market's going to do, what they think interest rates are going to do. So you have to be listening really closely to what they're actually saying. And then your reframe has to specifically address whatever they're saying. So there is no humanly possible way that I can give you a reframe for every specific scenario. So I'm going to pick a scenario. I'm just going to kind of walk you through it, but you're going to start to see like, okay, that's how Travis would say handle it here. And hopefully you'll have enough like walking out of this that you'll at least have some ideas of how to kind of adapt it to your particular situation. Okay. So a couple other things to keep in mind. The focus of this reframe is not to argue, but to give perspective while staying on the same side of the table. So if at any point in time, because remember, I've gotten us on the same side of the table, we're looking at the same problem together, but if at any point in time I like scooch my chair back onto this side and now we're on different sides of the table, I'm done. Now it's an argument, not a reframe. So you do not want to move this into argument. So there is no word for word, one size fits all. Now, the other thing you need to be aware of is data specific to your local market. I can't give you that. Everybody's market is unique. You're the local market expert, not me. So you need to know, what is the data showing in our market? Because there's the national data. And I want you to think about this. Are most people hearing national data or local data? National data. And is your specific local market operating maybe a little differently than the national market? Probably, because the national is just the average. So when they're listening to, the alphabet soup news channels like ABC, NBC, Fox, MSNBC, all of CNN, like pick your alphabet soup of news channels, they're all talking on the national level. So they're thinking, well, that's what's happening nationally, therefore that must be what's happening locally. Your job is to know the local data, because you're going to need local data to combat potential false or not accurate national data. It is your responsibility to know what's the expectation for my market, where are home prices going, where have they been, how does that get impacted by interest rates, by migration, by different things. So where I live in Florida, we're not seeing the hit that other areas, like some other areas, are getting hammered. Other areas just, they're up. Other areas kind of following the national. Florida, we're like, what trend? Because there's a lot of migration into the state right now. Now that may change, but you got to understand what's happening locally. So if you don't know your local number, shame on you. Figure that out. Talk to your board. Study that. Know that. Because if you don't, what I'm going to teach you will not work. It's just going to sound like a salesperson, because there's going to be no logical, they're just going to go, well, of course you're going to say that because you're a salesperson and you want me to buy a house or sell a house or whatever it is. So here's what I like to do. When reframing, I like to start with a question when reframing. So keep in mind at this point, let me just kind of quickly recap. It's like, hey, yeah, okay, that might actually, I guess, make sense. So I guess I should probably ask, what's kind of got you thinking in that direction? Then we're probing, we're clarifying, we're getting, understanding of what's happening. And then I go, I guess, do you mind if I offer you another perspective? And they're going to go, yes. And you say, great. I guess, have you considered the possible ramifications if? Or out of curiosity, do you mind if I ask if you've given consideration to what happens if? And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move them towards a different outcome, a different potential outcome than what they're making all of their plans on. So they've determined in their minds, or they've kind of been buying into a narrative that interest rates are going to drop and that they're going to be able to save X amount of dollars on their mortgage, and affordability is going to go up, and it's going to be all roses and candy and sunshine and rainbows and unicorns and angels dancing on the head of a pin, and it's Shangri-La because interest rates are going to come back down. So in this case, it's like, okay, so I guess out of curiosity, do you mind if I ask if you've given any consideration to, I guess, what happens if, let's just say, like you said, interest rates do come down, but what that ends up doing is it ends up pushing home prices up like it's done so often in the past. Have you considered that possibility and what the ramifications might be? It's just an honest question. It's an honest question. And now what I'm getting them to do, remember, we're over here, we're looking at this together, and they're like, well, here's my perspective. And I go, okay, that actually might make sense. But have you also considered this possibility and what the ramifications might be for you if this happened instead? Now, because we're still on the same side of the table, they're going to go, well, I don't know, maybe, I think so. And now you can go, okay, well, I guess here's why I ask. So when you ask, have you considered, you're kind of inserting an opposing reality, but doing it from the perspective of, I guess, what you said made sense, and you might actually be right, but have you also considered the potential ramifications if, or what could happen if this other thing took place instead? And now you're getting buy-in from them to go, well, I guess maybe not. What do you like? I don't know. So now you've put a seed of doubt in their mind, and now you can offer your perspective. And you can say, well, I guess here's why I'm asking. Because I understand what you're saying, so we're still on the same side of the table. And you, like I said, you may be right if it's a qualification thing or a logistical thing, but if it's not, then I guess there could end up being, some unintended consequences that all I want to do is just kind of make sure that you guys are aware of. So you can just make a fully informed decision. So I guess, do you mind if I share those with you? Do you mind if I just share those with you? Again, I'm going to ask for permission multiple times. So just don't be afraid to keep asking for permission to move things forward and for them to go, yeah, please, because then they're inviting you to keep the conversation going. And it also makes them feel like they're in control of the conversation because you're doing these check-ins with them. Now, so far, so good, guys. If this is making sense, drop a yes into the chat. I'm going to take a sip here. I've been training I'm going on 4 hours straight here, 5 hours straight. So I'm a little parched. So I'm going to get a little sip of water while I make sure that you guys are tracking. If this is making sense, type yes. Is this valuable, guys? Is this helping? Is this helping you guys? Makes sense. Yes. Awesome. Awesome. Yes. Seeing yes is rolling. Cool. So here's kind of the next step. Um, do you mind if I share them with you? And then I go, yeah, please. Okay. And now here's key. You're about to move into a technical explanation. I'm about to move into a technical explanation. So here's what you want to do. Okay. And here's the thing, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I just want to apologize in advance because this stuff, it's kind of boring. But it's the boring stuff that can cost us or make us money, right? So what I'm doing is I'm just letting them know, like, don't expect, I'm lowering their expectations that I'm just going to like have this one line close, this one line thing. Instead, just go, okay. And Mary Jo, I just need to apologize in advance because honestly, this stuff is kind of boring, but so often in life, it's the boring stuff that can cost us or make us money, right? And they're going to go, yeah. And it's like, okay, so let's just suppose, and maybe they're telling you, we're going to wait till interest rates come down to 6%. And right now they're, depending on credit scores, all that stuff. I looked and they're right at about 7.25, 7.5, whatever it is. So you go, okay, well, let's just suppose that interest rates do drop like you're hoping that they do. And they drop from 7.5 all the way down to 6%. I mean, that would be awesome, right? So again, check in, and they're going to go, yeah, it'd be awesome. I know, right? It'd be great. And so again, let's just suppose for a second that happens. But when interest rates go down, what we typically see when that happens, and historically, when we see that, what we oftentimes see is that reductions in interest rate, they're followed by a subsequent spike in demand. Because as interest rates come down, all those people that have kind of been hanging out on the sidelines, they're like, woohoo, and they jump in, right? And now you get more buyers coming into the market. And what does that typically do when you have more buyers? You remember 2020, 2021 guys, what did that end up doing to prices? It pushed them higher, right? And so we've seen that happen as recently, like 10, 15, 20%, sometimes more in some areas. And in our market, it went up by X percent. When interest rates came down, it pushed prices up by X percent when that happened. And so just, again, let's just suppose that home prices, when those interest rates come down, let's say, like you said, maybe down about that 6, right? And let's say we're all like, yay, that happened. And then all of a sudden home prices go up by, I don't know, 10%, let's just say. And again, I know this is kind of boring, but hang with me. Are you guys with me on this? Okay, great. So what would that mean for you is that the house you could get today for, let's say, and then you put it in their price point, like let's just say, I don't know, 500,000, kind of like you guys are looking, would right now, once the prices go up, like you could get it today for 500, but again, hang with me guys, it bumps up by 10%. Now you have to pay 550 for that same house. Now let's say that happened, but interest rates are down, they're 6%, but you got to pay a little more for the house, right? Instead of 5, you're paying 550 for the house. Now, the good news is, in fairness, doing that, it would save you about $200 a month. So if you got the mortgage today versus, I don't know, 6 months, a year from now, whenever it is, and prices up, but the interest rates are down, yeah, at that time, you'd save about $200 a month, in fairness, in your mortgage, okay? Because interest rates came down a little bit more than the price went up. But, and here's the key, you guys, you actually lose out on an increase in your equity, because if you bought that house today at 500, when it goes up to 550, how much equity do you now have? 50,000. But if you buy it up here, how much equity? Obviously down payments and all that, but hang with me on the analogy here, guys. So you buy it at 5 versus 550. If you buy it at 550, how much equity do you have? 0. whatever you put down, that's what you've got versus an extra 50,000. And now, and actually here's where it even gets a little bit more interesting, guys. Let's say you're right and interest rates come down. You buy today at 5, the house goes to 550, but you bought it down here. And when it comes up here, guess what you get to do? Refinance down. So you get to still take advantage of that 6% rate if that happens. And you get to take advantage of it on a lower home price, which actually brings your payment down even lower than if you wait and you buy up here. Does that make sense, guys? Are you like, again, I know it's kind of boring. I know it's a lot of technical stuff, but is that making sense? And so now you're again getting them to buy into an understanding of what's actually at stake. If it's just an emotional fear-based objection, remember, we're just like another perspective. That's all this is. And I can go, and gosh, and that doesn't even factor in that over the next year or whatever it is, you actually get to take advantage of writing off the interest on your mortgage, which, let's be honest, in the beginning of your mortgage is like a lot of interest. And so you get to take advantage of that, and you get to benefit, because if you're right and interest rates do come down, it's going to actually help push the value of the home that you buy today up. So now you're sitting on more equity, plus you get to refinance this mortgage instead of this mortgage. So you actually get to save money even for a longer period of time. Plus you've gotten some interest rate write-offs, and you've actually even paid down a little principal, kind of building up that mortgage even more. And so I guess, so guys, real quick, I'm going to hit pause for a second. Is this making sense to you guys? Because forget the client for just a second. Is this making sense to you guys, what I'm doing here and how I'm not rushing through this? I'm taking it nice and slow. I'm keeping I'm trying to keep the example super simple. But if this is making sense, type yes into the comments. I need to know you're tracking. Otherwise, there's no point in me moving forward. Okay. Seeing a couple of yeses roll through. I'm going to wait for a couple more because I want to make sure better than I've ever heard and understood. Awesome. Okay, cool. I'm going to let that person be the be all end all final statement on this one because I like that. So now from this point, I'm not going to go, okay, so does that make sense? Ready to buy or sell? Like, I'm not going to do that. So now I have to give them permission to seek additional clarity. Now, if you've done the reframe well, you take your time, you step through it slowly, you have little check-in points. Like, are you guys with me? Is that like, is this making sense? Am I being clear? I know this is boring. Like I'm just constantly like, I get it. It's data, but it's the, like you said, it's the critical stuff, right? So hang with me, guys. I just want to make sure, again, just another perspective here. So now what I want to do, if you've done it well, you will not have come off as trying to argue them into a corner, because that is not what you're trying to do. So now you're going to give them permission, and you just go, okay, so let me kind of hit pause here, Joe and Mary, and I guess at this point I should probably ask, did what I just laid out, did all of that make sense? Or I guess, do you see how that could actually, again, even in your scenario, kind of a best case scenario, do you see how that might actually end up, I guess, putting you in a deficit to wait? If you're actually thinking interest rates may be coming down here soon, that it actually might end up working against, I guess, kind of your goals and your outcomes here. And you just give them permission. Now, again, they may have some questions. They may go, well, yeah, but, and they may come back with different things. And then you just go back through the process with whatever they said. So you just go, again, acknowledge and diffuse. So, okay, well, you know what, that makes sense. Or, you know what, I see what you're saying there, and that you could be right. And so I guess again, do you mind if I just maybe offer another perspective on this? And again, just because I want to see I just want to make sure you're making the right decision. Whatever it is, I'm okay. I just want to make sure that I'm helping you along the way to whatever that is. And if that's weight, then awesome. Like, cool. But if it's not, I just want to make sure that you guys make a fully informed decision, and you can just move move back down through that process again. So once they say, yep, that makes sense, now step 6, because step 5 was give them permission to seek additional clarity. I don't know if I mentioned step 5. Step 5, give them permission to seek additional clarity. Step 6, the last step, is you close the loop. You close the loop. So once they're clear and they go, yeah, gosh, that does make sense. That means you're ready to, and by closing the loop, I mean determine the next logical steps, but let them feel like they're in control of what the next logical steps are. So here's what I want to say. At this point, avoid the obvious closes. It's amazing to me that some of the stuff is still taught out there. Look, I can teach Ben Franklin closes, sharp angle closes, option closes. So do you want to drive the red car off the lot today or the blue car off the lot? They're so obvious. So what you want to do, do you want to start looking at homes today or tomorrow? It's like, don't do that. Instead, just keep it relaxed and kind of put it in their court, but in a way that makes them feel like, well, of course, the next logical step is we move this forward. So it sounds like, okay, well, I guess, because again, they just said, yeah, that does make sense, what you just laid out. And you go, okay, well, I guess based on that, Joe and Mary, what would you like to do kind of from here? What would you like the next steps to be? Or so based on that, then, and I'm glad that brought some clarity, I guess, where do you two want to go from here? So given that, and would you at least like to, I don't know, consider what's out there right now, or I don't know, where would you like to go from here? And you know what you're likely to hear? Yeah. I mean, let's kind of keep moving this forward and let's just see what we find. Okay, great. And now you can move them forward. You're keeping it relaxed. We can option close all day long, guys. We can do this or that closes. We can do Ben Franklin closes, sharp angle closes, all the things. And the truth is, they're smart people, and I'm going to treat them as such. And I'm going to invite them into the conversation to inform what they want to be their next steps. So again, I'm going to hit pause here for just a second. If this is making sense, type absolutely or a heck yes or whatever you want to put into the chat. Let me know, because I want to make sure that I don't push forward until everybody's on board on the 6 steps that you're going to walk them through, right? So it's step 1, you acknowledge and diffuse the objection. Step 2, you seek clarity. Step 3, you ask for permission to reframe. Step 4, you reframe. Step 5, now you're giving permission for them to seek additional clarity. And then step number 6, you close the loop. You keep it calm. You keep it relaxed. If this is making sense, okay, cool. Makes sense. Great stuff. Awesome. Okay, guys. So here's the deal. As we wrap up today's training, this is just a fraction of the type of stuff that we teach our clients, that we help our clients with. And I want to offer a special invitation to you guys for a free 60-minute strategy session with either me or somebody on my team in the next 72 hours. If you'd like to take advantage of this, simply go to travisrobertson.com/schedule. Somebody on my team will drop it into the comments below. travisrobertson.com/schedule. You'll see a calendar there. You can grab a time that works for you in the next 72 hours or so. Get on the phone with me or somebody on my team and let us walk you through what might the next steps be to get your business an additional 2 to 5 closings per month or more into the pipeline, into the business, even in today's market. Guys, when you're equipped with strategies and tools and technology and game plans and understand scripts and how to move people forward, the objections, it's like no big deal. But if you're missing out on objections like this and understanding, think about just how many times you've heard this in the last 6 months, that if you knew what you know now, you could have had an extra 20, 30, 40, 50, 60,000, maybe some of you $100,000 or more in commission income, because you would have known how to handle it. And we want to be able to give that to you, support you with it. So here's the deal, guys. This call, it's not for everyone. This is really for real estate agents who are looking to grow your production, or for team leaders who may be having trouble scaling up right now. So that's who this is for. If you're not licensed, we love you. Wait till you're licensed, then reach out to us. But you got to be licensed. And here's the other thing, no hobbyists. So if you're like, kind of like, well, I just want to be, sell a deal or two a year, have a handful of deals. Like, we love you, we appreciate you, but this is not like, if you're not ready to truly get to the point where you're doing 2, 3, 4, 5 closings per month or more, this is really not for you. You're not ready for what we're going to ask you to do, what we teach you, what we train you. Even in that call, when we're going to be like, here's your game plan to get there, you're going to be like, well, that's great, but I'm only doing this part-time. I don't really want to go full-time. This kind of a side hustle. It's my retirement gig. Like, it's just not, don't waste your time. Okay, guys. So this is for the agents that are tired of being in the 90% of agents that are fighting over the scraps that are left behind by that 10%. This is for those of you that want to move into that top 10% in your market right now. We want to help you put together a game plan to get there. So if that's you, you're ready to do whatever it takes to grow your business in this market, to capitalize on the shifts and the changes and the opportunities that exist, go to travisrobertson.com/schedule. Grab a time that works best for you. Me or somebody on my team will get on the phone with you for 60 minutes, deep dive on your business, give you clarity, give you insight, help you make that next logical step, tangible step in your business to drive it forward. Okay. So next week, guys, we continue with part 2 of our objection handling series. I haven't landed on which one I'm going to tackle yet next. So if there's one you're like, holy crap, this was great, tackle this one next, punch it into the chat below. Let us know what the next objection you would like me to tackle is. And who knows, that may be the one that I do next week, because I went with the most advanced, most tactical one today. So guys, I hope you found this valuable. If you did, you want to book a call with our team, travisrobertson.com/schedule. Love y'all. Have a great and phenomenal week. Get to work, implement. Can't wait to hear your success stories. All right. Take care, guys.